All right, everybody. Welcome back to two weirdo fucking dorks talk about how there's a grand CIA communist conspiracy so women will not breed because they should breed and make more white babies to save these whole white cultures. I mean, the West. uh, we've watched 34 minutes of this now so far, and I feel uh like I'm about to start bleeding from my eyes. But whatever, you know what? For the sake of completeness, let's finish off this little bit and see where it takes us.
But to what? Oh, it's been really handy for all of the capitalists who like wages going down. So you lure women into the workforce, you just drive down the wages of men, and nobody ends up making any more money.
And the thing as well, I want to make sure that anyone adversarial to this perspective understands that this also comes from a position of empathy towards women. This is the front of it. I mean, it's really unfair to make women compete against men because men are highly competitive, naturally highly competitive. I've seen many documentaries that suggest that men enjoy. They get.
Fucking God. Holy shit, dude! I was not prepared. I was not prepared for that. Oh my God. Listen, you see, we care about the women, which is why we think it's unfair to make them have to compete against the superior man. I know he didn't say superior, but men are naturally more competitive. So how can women even compete? Oh my God.
Get a particular chemical rush out of competition. You can see it physical competition in particular, but any kind of competition.
Yeah, women do too.
There's a genuine joy of it for young men, especially. And
women do too.
Well.
Women do too.
And women tend not to be this competitive, not to be.
We don't raise women to be that competitive in a lot of these cultures. In cultures that do, we do see that. In families that raise women in competitive sports, we absolutely see that. In fact, I have known several women athletes in my life, and they were cutthroat. Absolutely cutthroat. It has nothing to do with their gender and has everything to do with how we raise them. What the holy shit? Like this is like fucking weirdo, like bizarro race genetics kind of shit. Like, you see, women are incapable of being quite as competitive as men. No, you fucking idiot. What? No.
Be this disagreeable, as Jordan Peterson might frame it. And so you're essentially putting one kind of person against another kind of person who has a natural disadvantage. And so, like you say, okay, you've got to get into the workforce. Okay, but the competitive people succeed. So it is men at the top, mostly, because they're the ones who are doing the 70-hour weeks.
Wow.
They're the ones who are putting their nose to the grindstone.
Okay.
In it as a preference against the women who feel that they're being held back because they're women, and it's not. It's just because of their own natural.
Okay, I'll put this out there. To be fair to Carl, because he seems to kind of remember the talking points from like 4 or 5 years ago when we were all, when he was more sane, and I was a little less sane, when we were equals, okay? Because since then, Carl has devolved into a fucking moron. Look. The idea behind it is trying to find an answer as to why there are more male CEOs than there are women CEOs. A lot of this, you can say, is because of the disparity in the gender hiring. You could say that maybe there is, in some ways, a systemic foothold there, a cultural barrier there, perhaps. I tend to think that, regardless of the reasons, you can empower and inspire anybody, boy or girl or non-binary or whatever, anything. You can inspire them to be competitive, to be cutthroat, to be aggressively trying to go for the things that they want. There's nothing inherently within their genetic structure because of which chromosome is expressed or not that would dictate whether or not they're going to be capable of being cutthroat or not. There are lots of men who are not ever going to be CEOs. Most of them will not be CEOs. And it's not because of their gender. It's because of any number of different causal factors. But when you water everything down into the most easily digestible, lowest common denominator, low IQ fucking talking point, of course this makes sense. What the fuck?
Natural inclinations. And I had another point there, but I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah,
But,
I'm going to just reinforce what you said there
Yeah,
real
please.
briefly, which is if you look at the verbal pyrotechnics that Carl and I, in our own shows, and even in this show in particular, the risks that we're taking, the risks to upset people, the verbal pyrotechnics, the charisma of the interaction, and all of that, the focus of what it is that we're doing, it all arises out of the basic fact that nobody wants to see our tits.
Yes. Yeah, I can't stream on Twitch in a low-cut top.
No,
It
low-cut
would do
tops
nothing.
do not work for me.
I mean, I've got great breasts, but like,
That's right. But it's all floss and no plumbing.
yeah, exactly. Right. But that's the thing. Like the feminist propaganda in the 70s was, you're a slave to your husband.
It's always interesting to hear libertarians complaining that they just can't make as much money as a woman because they don't have boobs. Maybe you should get boobs then. You could have them. You could. It's just a matter of effort and money. You could have some boobs.
It's like, okay, well, ladies.
Yeah,
who
at least
are you a
they're
slave to
honest.
now?
Fuck it, whatever.
Unless you own your own business, which most women don't, then you're just a slave to your boss, and you go into your artificially lit office, and you're there late at night. And are you satisfied? Is this what you wanted from your life? So you can hopefully
None
get
of your
that
business.
promotion. How important really is
What
that
the
promotion?
fuck?
How much do you feel satisfied with your life?
Oh, fuck.
You can look at the self-reported rates of happiness of women over time, and they're just declining. Women are not happy, and then you get
Show
the
me-
effect
show me
this
the
has
data.
on men.
Show me the
And,
data.
I mean, like, testosterone has gone down precipitously, and that's not good. That's not good for men. I mean, like, biologically, that's not good for men. You get increased risks of certain kinds of cancers. You get depression. You get all of these other effects that are actually really physically negative.
Oh,
And then you get
okay.
men not knowing their place in the world. You get the phenomenon of incels. Like, this is a modern phenomenon, and these men are resentful, man. They are really resentful. And
Yeah, you're saying the same shit as them, dude. And you actually do have wives. That should tell you something. You should let that sink in.
there's very little you can say to persuade them that they shouldn't be, because, well, it kind of looks like society has been stacked against them as much as one can stack a society.
Sure, sometimes, sure,
Especially
yeah.
given the legal system against men. And so it
Sometimes.
looks like we're arriving in a place that is really unhealthy, and really we're not optimizing for good things, for things that are genuinely good for the human being as an animal. We're optimizing for an idealistic, purely rational view of the world, and I think we have to accept that we are, still stuck.
That is a good question. I wonder why Sargon thinks testosterone is down. Also, is there a ticker for that? Can I like get an app on my phone? I can see like the current level of worldwide testosterone, or even by country levels of testosterone. And again, like, I really want to know why he thinks testosterone is down. Is it a Marxist, CIA, communist, feminist agenda conspiracy to lower our T? I mean, like, sorry. I just want to know, man. I want to know.
Stuck in animal bodies, just strikes me as something that we need to be honest about, and I don't think we are being honest about it.
Because of the 5G? Yeah, dude.
Yeah, men do have a lot to be angry about. I mean, those of us who grew up, I'm a 60s kid, grew up 70s and 80s, and man, it was carnage in my neighborhood with regards to divorce and hostility and custody battles. I mean, it was a godforsaken wasteland. It was a hellscape of human horrors and problems. And there were these kids in my neighborhood who had like the magic families. They were like the fortresses. They were immune for a variety of reasons, which we could talk about perhaps, but they were kind of immune to all of this propaganda that sets men against women, that sets women against men, that sets the poor against the middle class against the rich, and so on. I mean, I was in Hong Kong last year shooting a documentary, fortunately right before COVID-19 came out, And I was out there, and you really get to see this viscerally. I was talking about how the communists kind of wormed in, and they were these societies which had existed with complex contracts and so on for centuries in China, and they just wormed in, and they say, oh, that guy's got more because he's stolen from you and he's stolen from your family. He's an evil landlord, and they just stoked these fires like a man blowing on a fire that's going to consume his entire world. They stoked these fires with these soft syllables of savagery. And it ended up, of course, blowing up into the entire revolution that killed tens of millions of Chinese people. And I got a very vivid sense of that kind of combat when I was out there marching with the protesters and, got facefuls of tear gas and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very vivid and very powerful. And this focus on women.
Look at, listen, I really don't have anything to say about this necessarily because it's a very, very strange story that he's telling, and tying everything to communism. But look at Carl's face. Like, it's true. Communism is a very big threat. It's the biggest threat ever. Yes.
And how do you get people to resent others? Well, you say that they have what they have because they've taken it from you. And so now the way that it's supposed to work in people's minds is they say, well, women, you see, you just don't get paid as much as men. And it's because men are sexist and men look down upon you, and men have these wonderful lives because you're on your knees scrubbing and doing laundry, and you just keep pouring. It's complete Iago.
These two dudes laugh as they get paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to run their mouths and just say whatever random vomitous bullshit crosses their diseased, addled minds. Like, come on, man. I don't make anywhere near either of these two. Actually, I don't know how much Molyneux makes these days because he got a bit fucked up by getting deplatformed. And Sargon keeps having a bit of problems with YouTube monetization. But I also know he has private sponsors that pay him a lot of money. Yep, talk about that some other time. But I don't make nearly as much as you guys, and I know full well just how good we have it. 100%. But that's not anything specifically because I'm a man, especially versus a woman. Again, you guys even made the argument of booby streamers. Like, I don't know what this is supposed to prove. I don't know what this is supposed to mean. It's very, very weird. Also, I would mention that I have not heard any complaints about the wage gap overwhelmingly like we used to back in the day. It's not really something people give that much of a shit about right now, unless they can definitively point and be like, look, I am actually being discriminated against for my pay. In which case, you would agree with me and with them that that should be fixed. If there is a specific case where somebody is being denied a full wage because of their gender, regardless of their gender, you would have a problem with it just like I would. The thing that you had a problem with back in the day was the overarching narrative that it was a systemic problem, which it wasn't. So it depends on how you looked at it.
Completely Iago, and it destroys love. You just keep pouring these poison words into people's ears, and it takes a pretty staunch spirit to resist this stuff. And a lot of women don't, a lot of men don't, a lot of women get resentful, and then they become entirely unappealing to marry. And that's another way in which the soft erasure of an entire culture can
You'd probably be able to get married if you weren't just such a bitch, Brenda. Wow, that's a good take from you there, Molyneux.
be a
Yeah, I mean, this, and it is ideological as well. It is ideological by the communists. If there's one, I mean, I believe, in fact, a bunch of Yuri Bezmenov interviews and lectures were removed from YouTube because these started getting a lot of hits because he was just saying, well, look, this was just open communist subversion. You have open societies. We took advantage of that. We in the Soviet Union, because he was a Soviet diplomat, which means spy, effectively, in the 80s, and he defected to the United States. For anyone who doesn't know who Yuri Bezmenov was, and he just laid out how 80% of the Soviet, the KGB's activities were subversion. It wasn't, spying. It was trying to manipulate our society.
Yeah, we do it too.
And there does seem to have been some kind of, we seem to be living with the consequences of that.
We do it too. We've been doing it all over the fucking world for decades. Like, we helped invent the spy game, my dude. Especially Britain and America and Russia. We invented the spy game. Like, we have all been employing methods of subversion all over the fucking place. Yeah, of course. But anytime there's something that you don't like, just being like, well, it's a communist plot. Like, what? Nah. Nah. There are specific cases that you can see communist plots actually happening, sure. But not everything I don't like is communism. There's a meme for that.
And I think that if you're a woman listening to this, just ask yourself, what would make you feel fulfilled? That's the thing. You've got to look at it and think, right, in 20 years' time, what do I want? And ideally, you probably want kids, don't you? I wanted kids. I'm not a woman. I still want kids. I love being a father. I love having my kids around. It's the best part of my day. Like seeing my kids. So
Okay.
I think, and this is something I've noticed with millennial women in particular.
Things that you like aren't necessarily things that other people like. And it's their choice whether or not they want to do that or not. It's as simple as that. You have to understand that people might make choices that you don't like, and it's their choice.
They seem to have a real emotional reaction to the idea of children. They seem to, oh no, I hate kids. No, you don't. Kids are amazing. Like, they've got this starry-eyed innocence, and when they find something and want to show it to you, look what I've done, Daddy or Mummy or whatever. It's amazing, isn't it?
Look at these two guys just beaming over how wonderful kids are, and just look, we're so fucking wholesome. You fucking weirdos. Can we just appreciate how fucking gross it is that you spend all this fucking time talking about how you need to save the white culture, and try and encourage women into having as many white kids as possible. And we need to dissuade women from making the individualized choices that we don't like. And but we're so fucking wholesome, we just love kids. Ew, you fucking gross weirdo. What the fuck, dude? It's gross.
It's just the most incredible thing when they want to share that with you, because you're the first thing on their mind, and you feel important. Suddenly you understand that you have some reason to do something. Because this is another thing as well, the sort of depressive, nihilistic millennial. Well, you're only living for yourself. Of course you can't find a purpose in life. Of course you can't. What are you going to do? It was raising your kids. Now what are you doing? You're just taking drugs and wasting away your youth. Enjoy. But right, should we talk about the internet communists that you've been having fun with?
This will be fun.
I would love to.
Yes. So for anyone who doesn't know, Stefan did a debate with Vaush, and this hit on a point towards the end of the debate. The whole thing is entertaining to watch generally, but you hit on the point at the end that Vaush doesn't run a cooperative, which is his preferred method of reforming capitalism. Would you like to take us through how that went, Stefan, very quickly?
So, the argument from Hypocrisy. So, for those who don't know, I've written an entire book called The Art of the Argument, which is not a formal treatise on logic, but how to win a street fight, which we generally have to try and win if we're to save civilization on the conversational or type level. You can get it at artoftheargument.com. But the argument from Hypocrisy is something that is really, really important and highly undervalued, which is if somebody says, for instance, that all value comes from labor, that if you want to become wealthy, you employ a lot of people and you become a capitalist, and that's the only way to become wealthy, then I damn well expect them to have a couple of hundred employees at least, because that's how you become wealthy, right? So that's kind of important, right? So if he says, no, I do it all myself, or maybe I'll just hire out a couple of contractors or whatever, then it's like, okay, well, then you don't believe in the labor theory of value. There's something else that's providing value, and it's not labor, because you're trying to minimize the amount of labor that you're using, right?
Yeah, surely more labor would produce more wealth for everyone.
Exactly. It's like me saying, well, you got to play a lot of lottery tickets if you want to win, and I desperately want to win. Well, how many lottery tickets do you play? One. Like, okay, well, then something's not quite going right here. So.
Nothing that they're talking about makes any fucking sense. None of this makes any fucking sense at all. Like the argument is like some basic fundamental altruism surrounding your job, your corporation, your business, that we should necessarily have held. I guess Vaush. I kind of recall that. I remember everybody always trying to bring up this thing with Vaush of like, well, you don't hire anybody. He doesn't need to. Well, then you're not actually providing. Well, I'm not worried about providing. I'm worried about doing my job and trying to inspire ideas that I believe in. Well, you're not living by those ideas. Maybe not yet. What the fuck? Are they really this goddamn retarded? Yes, they are. Yes, they absolutely are. Yes, 100%. These are two people who are so very big-brained. They actually think this is a good fucking argument. And Sargon has been beating this drum over this absolutely brain-dead take for months. It's embarrassing.
So then, of course, if people are saying that worker control of the means of production is really, really important, well, a YouTube channel is a means of production, right? It's something that you've homesteaded, so to speak, right? You've signed up for it, and you've homesteaded your YouTube channel. It is a means of production because it is something that you use to generate wealth, and it's something that you have control over. You kind of own your YouTube channel, assuming you stay within the somewhat increasingly narrow confines of what is considered acceptable these days. But you kind of own. So he owns the means of production, right? So under this belief system, he is a capitalist, right? So then,
why isn't he a worker? He is a worker who also owns the means of his own production because there are no other workers. Is a sole person, is a farmer who grows like his own apples, and he takes the apples and he sells the apples and he doesn't have anybody else working for him. Is he then a capitalist or is he a worker? Now, if you say he's both, fine. Okay. But how in the world does that actually conflict with the ideology that Vaush promotes? There's no rule in the things that he talks about that says, like, if there is only one worker, they are now not a worker, and it conflicts bleep bloop with what we're... No. In no way does that make any sense at all. Holy shit.
Of course, if you are a communist and you believe that the workers should own the means of production, then clearly his workers must have a huge degree of control over what it is that he does.
Also, Vaush is not a communist. Vaush is a socialist. And there are many clear examples of worker-owned businesses in America. There are a lot. Actually, Costco is a worker-owned business. There's quite a few. They're actually kind of like a soft socialism, though, because they're still mixed in with some degrees of capitalism. But I don't think that that's necessarily disagreeable to people who are hardcore into socialism. And just as like a just to fully disclose, I tend to believe in capitalism, but I don't believe in unrestricted capitalism. I do believe that some socialist policies work quite well, like our fire department, you know? So I'm just open-minded about these things. I'm not like one way or the other, hard anything. I just, I like things that work, okay?
Because you see, having a monopoly over the means of production is really, really bad. So
I
said,
but
okay,
by
well,
his
how
definition,
often...
he's exploiting them.
Well, yeah. So
how can
I would
who's
say,
exploiting who? Exploiting himself? Jesus Christ, this is big brain dumb shit.
By your definition, how many times have you had your workers publish their videos on your channel? And of course, I had looked up ahead, and it's all Vaush.
He's the worker, so 100% of the time. What the fuck, dude?
Right, and that's your ringtone for you, like the worst wake-up alarm. Vaush. Ah, I'm in commie land. So of course, he owns the means of production. He should be sharing the means of production. And I also said, okay, well, how many other up-and-coming YouTubers who don't have as valuable a means of production as you do with your channel, do you let them come and use your channel and all this? And it's like, well, no, never. Like, okay, so you enjoy having a monopoly over the means of production. You don't allow your workers any access or input into your means of production. So what are you talking about? It's so weird. It's like, for me...
Listen, this whole segment right here is these two dudes trying to emotionally support each other because they're so booty bothered by a socialist on the west coast of the United States. They are so fucking booty bothered. They're passing around a blunt of copium to try and fucking soothe their ass hurt. Because while they are slowly fading into irrelevance and dying, this one dude is effortlessly skyrocketing past them and converting a lot of their audience into something that's at least a bit more sane. Yeah. I believe it shouldn't be socialism for big business and hard and fast capitalism for individuals. Yeah, copium. You guys don't know about copium? dude, Carl of Akkad is a fucking copium addict these days. 100%. Pure copium. Pretty much anybody who's like hitched their horse to Trump and has to respond to the constant barrage of absolute fuckery that he's been doing for the past 6 months are copium addicts at this point. Just mainline and just shoot that copium right into my fucking veins, dude. No. Nothing. None of this is real. It's not happening.
What you value should come from the mirror before it comes from a book, right? Now, you can change all of that, but you've got to look at what you're doing in life. And if you are holding on like grim death to the means of production, and you don't want any additional workers, and you never let the contractors you pay have any say over your means of production, then shut up about workers controlling the means of production. Just shut up about it, because you're not living it. You're living the complete opposite, and it's that weird disconnect that is so schizoid, I can't even tell you how much it troubles me.
And the best part about it for me was that the fact that he was advancing the argument that worker co-ops would be as or more effective than capitalistic
it's certainly more
ownership
moral.
of production. Well, yeah, but he was arguing the efficacy of it. And if that's the case, then you're holding your YouTube channel back by not socializing the means of production of it. So why don't you do that? And you could see, I mean, he said,
So much
I do
copium.
95% of the work.
So much
Well,
copium.
then, you are very much a capitalist in this regard, Vaush. Why, if you believed in your theory, you would live
Copiate
it,
of
or
the
at least
masses.
try to
Oh
live
shit,
it.
dude.
Yeah, I mean, this, people can complain about Bernie Sanders all you want, but I mean, he did live on a commune. He did go to the Soviet Union. He at least
But he was
tried.
kicked off the commune for laziness.
He was, yes, because but at least he tried to engage with the things that he was preaching. But when you get someone like Vaush, who's like an arch capitalist in his business practices, and I mean, I can't believe that the people he's working with accept what he's doing, because they surely are socialists as well, which drew them to Vaush because of what he was preaching. And then you get the example of like Hassan Piker from the Young Turks, who was getting some other socialist online to edit his videos, send them to him, and he wasn't paying the guy for the videos. He was just uploading them. So he was just openly exploiting this guy. I mean, if you're a capitalist, that's exploitation. So from a socialist perspective, my God, that must be some high crime or something.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's a
dick.
wonderful phenomenon how, because I mean, arguing the Byzantine logic within Marxist theory is boring, pointless, and excessively complex. And the people who do nothing but that are probably going to win those arguments, because that's all they do. But just at the very end, when you got to the point, it was like, hang on, well, why don't you do it? And man, his argument was just special pleading. Well, I don't think it'd work for me.
Right.
Well, why should it work for anyone else?
Yeah, it would be the last thing I'd want to do, but absolutely, it's what society.
These two dudes are so mad that Vaush blew their assholes out the last time he talked to both of them. Holy shit. What the fuck, man? I bet you they're really booty bothered by how much money he makes, too. Holy shit. A socialist making more in super chats than me. Oh, dear. Also, yeah, I don't really like the Young Turks either. Nah. Yeah, no. Still not a fan. Never will be, I don't think.
It's a whole shit of topic. And it's the same thing. So I had a debate with an academic, Mac McManus. And, it was a lot of abstract kind of stuff, immigration, this and that, which is, it's fun and interesting and, worthwhile to. For me, it's like a warm-up. It's a warm-up to the kill shot of, okay, let's look at how you're living your life, right? And this guy.
Oh, yeah, that's it. You guys can tell I've been watching a lot of Last Week Tonight. Yeah, so I guess like that's Carl edited that, by the way. And so it's apparently split in half, and the other half is the Q&A. But I am not watching anymore. I am done. I can only suffer so much brainworms before I want to bravely and hero myself, sunset peacefully into tomorrow. Hassan doesn't work on TYT anymore? I don't know. I don't pay attention to Hassan. I don't really pay attention to hardly any of these people anymore, to be honest with you. Except Vaush, because he's a homie of mine. But, yeah, I don't know. It's really, really, really strange to think that in almost 50 minutes, that much dog shit can just be vomited forth. And again, like the very first video that I cut on this, like Sargon and his strange white Sharia, real suspicious stuff. Okay, real weird. And yeah, anybody who kept telling me, no, he's not actually saying that. Well, here you fucking go.